It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Wednesday, September 4th. I'm Wendy Corr, bringing you headlines from the Cowboy State Daily newsroom, brought to you by Serve Wyoming, Wyoming's Center for Volunteerism and AmeriCorps service for the last 30 years. For volunteer opportunities, visit servewyoming.org. An advancing Fish Creek fire prompted an evacuation of the historic Brooks Lake Lodge and nearby subdivisions Tuesday evening. Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean was in Du Bois when the evacuation order came.
I had to sort a few things out. I got an evacuation order on my phone, and they sent the entire map of what I thought would be the area that's being evacuated, and Du Bois was on the edge of that. They have been preparing Brooks Lake Lodge. We've been writing about that. They've got an elite firefighting team there, so it's as safe as it can be with a wildfire bearing down on it. What's burning in the Fish Creek fire is all this beetle-killed pine trees, and this fire is just, it's 1,000% more intense than most other fuel sources would be. So it would take a real gully washer to stop this fire.
Smoke and unstable fire lines have also closed Highway 26-287 over Togety Pass, forcing some tourists who were headed for Yellowstone National Park to turn back and filling up nearly every room in town in Du Bois on Monday night. A series of delays placed a Black Hawk pilot and a former athletic trainer in the right place and time to rescue a wrecked and hurt airplane pilot from a fire outside Meeteetse on Sunday. Steve Atencio and J.R. Larson were out looking for bighorn sheep Sunday mornings so they could fill Larson's hunting tag. That's what the pair told Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland on Tuesday.
Atencio actually said there were all these stupid little things that kept getting in our way. So they took their own course. They were trying to follow a friend's directions. They were avoiding grizzly bears. They were distracted by some wolves. So all of these things happened where they were just not anywhere on the schedule they had envisioned or the path they had envisioned. And that was when they heard the plane go down.
The woman who died in the crash has been identified as 78-year-old Mary Lou Sanderson of Lake Havasu, Arizona. The pilot is still alive and is being treated in a Billings hospital. There will be a gaping hole left in the Saratoga, Platte Valley, and Carbon County communities by the death of Lauren Teentz Wilford, a former state legislator, music man, and familiar face at countless public events around Cheyenne and southern Wyoming. Cowboy State Daily's Leo Wolfson reports that Wilford, a fourth-generation Wyoming native, died early Tuesday morning at the age of 85 from cancer.
Wilford served in the legislature from 1993 to 2002, but he's probably even more well-known for his musical presence that he carried and public presence that he carried in Saratoga and the whole Platte Valley and Carbon County as a whole. Wilford was a mainstay in seemingly every public event that occurred in some of these communities. He also served as the executive director of the local Chamber of Commerce, spoke to a number of different people about the impact he had on the community, and he was just well known as being just a consistent figure who was perpetually friendly and jovial, making friends wherever he went.
Wilford was still playing 3 shows a week into the last year of his life. Accused of shooting another man roughly 10 times with a .45 caliber pistol in Fort Bridger, a Lyman man is charged with first-degree murder. 36-year-old Skyler Gray could face life in prison or the death penalty if convicted of the first-degree murder of 48-year-old Mountain View resident Jeremy Jacques. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland examined court documents which showed that the shooting appears to have been prompted by a disagreement between the two men.
Gray pulled up to the home where the shooting happened and told Jacques, "You owe me something." And Jacques is said to have responded, "I don't owe you a thing," albeit in more colorful language. And then Gray is accused of approaching and shooting several times, including continuing to shoot after Jacques fell to the ground.
A Lyman woman who allegedly threw Gray's pistol out the window of a moving truck after the shooting has been charged as an accessory after the fact. A large male grizzly bear attacked 2 archery hunters in Idaho near Yellowstone National Park on Sunday, wounding one of the men before they both shot and killed it with their handguns. Sunday's attack happened west of Henry's Lake in the Island Park area on the Caribou-Targhee National Forest. That's according to outdoors reporter Mark Hines.
It's a pretty wild and rugged area of Idaho, and there's some archery hunters doing what archery hunters do, being quiet, being stealthy. Kind of goes against the protocols of how you're supposed to behave in grizzly bear country. Unfortunately, they had a run-in, a surprise close encounter with a large male grizzly bear. The bear charged him, knocked one of the hunters down, bit his arm. He suffered non-life-threatening injuries, but serious injuries nonetheless. But both he and his partner were able to reach their handguns, and they shot and killed the grizzly.
In a strange coincidence, Sunday's attack mirrored one in roughly the same area exactly a year previously, on September 1st of 2023, when another set of archery hunters killed a charging bear with their handguns. And now let's take a look at today's weather with Cowboy State Daily meteorologist Don Day.
A small little weather system that was over Washington and Oregon has now moved into the Rockies, and this is good news. This will mean some cooler temperatures, some shower and thunderstorm activity over most of Wyoming. Not everyone will get rained on, but there will be some chances for rain, especially in some of the areas affected by wildfires in the northeast and the far west. The cooler temperatures and the higher humidity will help. Many areas today and again tomorrow for Thursday will only be in the 70s. Most of the showers, though, should be over by Thursday morning. Then it's back to warmer, drier conditions by Friday.
You can get Don's full forecast on the Cowboy State Daily website. I'll be back in just 15 seconds with more news.
Your attention is precious. That's why Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming works hard to make navigating your healthcare easier. Because having the right health insurance means not having to think about it, letting you focus on you. That's the benefit of Blue.
The Papa's Creek Ranch is a perfect fishing and hunting getaway in the heart of Star Valley. Picturesque, mountainous, and with not just one trophy trout stream, but two. The 179-acre ranch had been on the market for $4.95 million. But Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that the property has apparently been snapped up by Yellowstone television show creator Taylor Sheridan.
Nobody knows exactly why Sheridan bought this particular property. It could be that he wants a hunting and fishing getaway. It's perfect for that. On the other end, it's also possible he wants to use it as the setting for one of his many projects with Paramount Plus. He's got a contract through 2028, at least 5 productions that he's working on for them. And $5 million or so might sound like a lot to pay for a movie setting, but Sheridan famously spends an outrageous sum putting together Yellowstone.
Sheridan owns a number of ranches that have also served as settings for the popular television series he created. The Four Sixes Ranch is a real ranch in Texas, as is the 600-acre Bosque Ranch, which is also featured in the show. Whether Sheridan has any such plans for the Star Valley property is not known. A Los Angeles-based clean technology company, which had wanted to build one of the world's largest direct air capture of carbon dioxide and storage projects in southwestern Wyoming, is pulling the plug on development of the complex in the Cowboy State. Energy reporter Pat Mayo spoke with the CEO of Carbon Capture Incorporated, who said intense competition from data centers in the region is part of the reason the company is pulling out.
Well, it's a potential $1 billion operation there, a hub, that they were competing against 2 other projects in the United States, one in Louisiana and the other in Texas, and they potentially could have won. But what they said was that they could not come up with enough clean energy in order to make their direct air capture project work. They would have had to have generated the equivalent of 3 micro-nuclear reactors like TerraPower is building down in Kemmerer in order to be able to make this thing work.
The decision to relocate the deployment of Project Bison outside of Wyoming and pause development efforts related to the project was driven by a desire to build the project as quickly as possible. The wrong-way driver who triggered a chain reaction crash on I-80 last year that killed 5 people was sentenced Tuesday to the maximum sentence available under the law, a century in prison. 59-year-old Arthur Nelson was high on meth when he caused the crash that claimed the lives of 5 young people, all between the ages of 18 and 23, who were on their way home to Arkansas after a visit to a Wyoming Bible college. That's according to Crime and Courts reporter Claire McFarland.
The defense attorney, Mike Bennett, was saying a century in prison, is it going to bring these people back? This man has struggled with addiction. He has medical issues. He doesn't have many valuable years left. Whereas the prosecutor argued roughly between 70 and a century. Judge Snyder went 98 to 110. So pretty much the maximum on every count. And she had the choice to do what's called concurrent, where she could have made the counts run simultaneously to each other. And she didn't take that. She went consecutive. So back to back to back sentences.
Carbon County District Court Judge Dawnessa Snyder sentenced Nelson to between 98 and 110 years in prison, more than either the prosecutors or defenders' suggestions. And whether by virtue of good food, great genetics, or some combination of the two, a moose in Wyoming's Bighorn Mountains is turning heads with its super-sized proportions. Photos taken by a Sheridan wildlife photographer show the young bull, whose antlers aren't exceptionally large, at least not yet, but whose body is freakishly huge, according to outdoors reporter Mark Hines.
The Bighorn Mountains has one of the more robust moose populations that we have here in Wyoming. And she got some photos of this moose that, I mean, I'm not kidding. He's a tank. His antlers aren't really that huge. He still appears to be a fairly young bull, but his body is just huge.
This moose's proportions are made all the more amazing by the fact that Wyoming's moose are Shiras moose, the smallest of 4 North American subspecies. But smallest subspecies or not, this moose is a tank and likely to keep growing. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. And you can watch this newscast every day by clicking subscribe on our YouTube channel. I'm Wendy Corr for Cowboy State Daily.